Scott Pianowski, what is the biggest mistake you think even experienced fantasy football players still make year after year?
I got to go to the injury optimism, especially in fantasy football. It happens in other sports as well, but you don't want to be the guy who's, you hear timetables and you're betting on the short timetable. You're betting on miracle comebacks. I realized like Adrian Peterson once upon a time made a miracle comeback, but also I think it's important to go younger in fantasy football. And this is something I came into fantasy very open-minded to like the boring value veterans. And I thought they were good guys to pick off, but the longer I play, the more I want my team on the escalator, a guy who hasn't had his best season yet. I mean, you have to season it to taste. Your entire team isn't going to be 23 years old or all upside guys, but I'm generally not going to be the injury optimist. And, when in doubt, try to take the younger player when you can.
This is you used to go for like the boring Tyler Lockett types and the Joe Mixons, in age 27. Is this a change in philosophy?
A little bit. I mean, I have a Mike Evans, kinship, right? When have you ever regretted drafting Mike Evans? But it's just the game is it's so much about players who haven't had the attrition yet, the mileage, player who can have a breakout. You want as many players as you can in your roster to potentially have the best season they've ever had, and the aging curves are so predictable and reliable, right? I mean, you just don't want to bet against stuff like that. I mean, I know today we're talking about receivers, and one player I'm not going to draft this year. I don't know how anybody could talk me out of this. I'm not going to draft Tyreek Hill. And this is a player a couple of years ago was in the running for Offensive Player of the Year. I think Tyreek Hill is a Hall of Famer. I recently did the top 25 fantasy players of the past 25 years over at Yahoo, and Tyreek Hill was in the top 10. Last year, Alan, after week 1, Tyreek Hill did not have a catch over 30 yards. He's in his 30s. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa is a somewhat compromised player. I know Mike McDaniel spent the whole offseason realizing that they have to get Tyreek Hill unlocked again, and maybe they do it. But it's also one of my theories that once the cheese goes bad on a player, I'm not sure if it's necessarily gone bad on Tyreek Hill. It's starting to take on a certain odor. Anyway, I'm a little bit nervous about that. Rather be a year early than a year late. So guys like Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and I realize people are going to be tempted because the ADPs on them are lower than they usually are. And you're looking at, again, Travis Kelce, a walk-in Hall of Famer, another player who's on that top 25 list. I think I had him 3rd or 4th overall. I mean, Kelce speaks for himself, but I'd rather be a year early than a year late on these guys in their 30s.
Yeah, the dented can bin, right? It's like so it's funny you say that because Tyreek Hill, everyone's running away, right? But yet the ADP stays in the 3rd round. I did like, I guess, a silly little bet, a little sprinkle. I put 18-1 Tyreek Hill most yards just in case, right? 20 or 25 on there in some shady sports book. So, well, no, I'm kidding. It's a legal sports book. It is legal here in Florida nowadays. Are you legal where you are?
Yes, Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's local casinos. You can bet pretty much anything, anytime you want. I'm not sure that's the greatest thing at all times, but yes, Michigan is an open state.
Okay, so we are going to be talking about wide receivers that we're just not drafting. We're going to offer some alternatives instead. And Tyreek Hill now. So conversely, in the ADP, you have Marvin Harrison, who's there. Not that we're not taking him, but is he someone on the ascent, even though he didn't show it? Because he was a 1st-round pick last year, Scott, 11, 14, like in that 1-2 turn spot. And now he's priced the same as a player that you're just crossing off. You just a minute ago said ascending players. Is Marvin Harrison someone that you're going to offer as an alternative to Tyreek Hill?
He's not, because I have a Kyler Murray problem. I think the Cardinals might have a Kyler Murray problem because he's not getting any taller. He doesn't throw over the middle of the field well, and I don't think he sees those passes all the time. Last year, he couldn't get Trey McBride in the end zone to the very end of the season, and Harrison had a disappointing year because his depth of target was a lot higher than we thought. They didn't find a way to get easy touches, easy targets, those layup targets that Matt Harmon would talk about. Arizona never really unlocked those with Harrison last year. I realized, look, the expectations were sky high. His rookie season would have been fine for so many ordinary guys, somebody who wasn't the son of a Hall of Famer and a player who came out with the 4th overall pick. But I'm looking at Yahoo ADP right now, and so Garrett Wilson goes around the same time as Tyreek Hill and Marvin Harrison. And I realize people Justin Fields, I can't. They're going to try to hide him. They don't want to throw the ball. But Wilson is obviously the number one mouth to feed in that passing game. I think he's got 135 targets in his back pocket, and at least Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields is some proof of concept. They played together at Ohio State. They didn't exactly go bonkers, but they were decent that 1 year. Fields played well enough at OSU to be a first-round draft pick. I do like Justin Fields as a pick just because I think he's going to run for 1,000 yards anyway. Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
And it's so funny whenever you talk about receivers, right? Ohio State comes up, right? Because you're going to talk Harrison, you're going to talk Olave, can he avoid the concussion problems? And I'm really afraid to draft him. So Terry McLaurin, great Ohio State receiver, going through a contract issue right now. You can't get away from them. Remember, Jameson Williams had to go to Alabama because he couldn't find playing time at Ohio State. I love mentioning that. I'm actually not drafting JMO this year either, but I'm back in on Garrett Wilson. The price has come down a little bit. I said on the RotoWire show on Sirius a couple days ago that I've been hurt by Garrett Wilson, but I'm ready to be hurt again. I don't blame him. I think he's one of those it's not your fault all-stars. McLaurin was one of those guys. DJ Moore was one of those guys. Not that Justin Fields is a kingmaker, but I think this is finally the year that Garrett Wilson returns his ADP and maybe even beats it a little bit.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson, it's very similar to what we were saying about Terry McLaurin, and you were, pounding the table for Terry McLaurin. Just get him a quarterback where it's, it's competent play, and Justin Fields could be it. I remember coming out of in that draft, I didn't want, as a Jet fan, I didn't really want the Jets to take Zach Wilson. I wanted Justin Fields, and now I'm going to get it. So it's pretty interesting there. Terry McLaurin though was never like a first round fantasy pick, but this seems like the right ADP for him as well. Injury optimism, that's like a staple that I think it's so sound because people lean into it. Last year with Jonathan Brooks, you remember that, like coming off an ACL, it'll be the best 8th round pick ever, second half of the year, but it's like you're 2-6 in your fantasy league. It's not going to work. And you're passing on some of these, like you can't even pick them. You have an IR spot, different story, but you're missing out on some of these FAAB pickup guys,
Well, also, so you say, well, I have an IR spot. What's the big deal? Well, a bunch of your guys on your roster are going to be hurt by the end of September. Yeah. And then you have to cut somebody you don't want to cut. And this leads into, so people say, okay, injury optimism. How do I apply that? There's another guy who's a power fade for me is Brandon Aiyuk.
He's on cover of our thumbnail here. I love that.
Well, there you go. I didn't even realize that, but yeah. Okay, good. We're in lockstep on that. I don't know when he comes back. And here's why injury optimism is a loser for you. Okay. Is because not only when the players come back, are they on a snap count? Are they anywhere close to 100%? Are they in sync with their quarterback? Sometimes you need that prove it week before you can start them with any confidence. You lose another week in most fantasy leagues, 13 regular season games. We can't, mess around with those. We can't fritter away a game or two just trying to figure out who a guy is. And God forbid if they play a game like Aiyuk, if he comes back in a week where they have a Sunday night game or a Monday night game, then you have to make a decision with incomplete information. That's a mess. You have to pick up a caddy. You don't even want to start just in case they can't go. I hate that gap week that you have to navigate. Interesting time for the Niners, right? I mean, they give away Deebo Samuel, 5th round pick to Washington. So they basically just gave him away. Last year, Jennings was really good, but he has no pedigree at all. Pearsall gets shot before the season. So the fact that he even got on the football field, did anything, was a plus, but still largely an unknown. Kittle, a Hall of Fame talent. You expect him to maybe miss some games, but George Kittle, when he's on the field, is just a dynamite football player. So it's an open passing game. And you can talk yourself into a bunch of different guys being the featured part here. McCaffrey is a difficult player to call, but I've been open to Jennings. I wish he was more happy. Yeah, my reading of the tea leaves was that like McLaurin's unhappy, but he's very clear. I want to stay in Washington. He's not demanding a trade or anything. I think McLaurin's going to get settled one way or another. I wish Jennings were happier because he'd be such a target player for me. I've still drafted him, but I don't want to be completely gaga over. I don't want to have like all my rosters with Juwan Jennings. I just want to cover myself a little bit in case this goes sour. But I believe in Purdy. I think I like Purdy more than the average person does. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan needs no defense, and I'm just not sure who's going to lead this team in targets because it could be Pearsall, it could be Kittle. Aiyuk could be the target gainer in the second half of the year, but I'm not drafting him at all. Not only am I not tempted ADP, Allen, but there's going to be a league where the whole room kind of sours on him and the price gets tempting, and I'm still going to back away. I'm not going to draft Brandon Aiyuk.
Let's test how much you like Purdy right now. Right now, he's in ADP around QB 13-ish. Just we're talking fantasy football here, right? Justin Fields, you take over him, right? I mean, you would take Fields over Purdy, right?
Fields is going to run for 1,000 yards.
Yeah. Okay. So that's easy. How about Goff or Purdy?
I lean towards Goff. I think he's just get a little bit more help. And as much as you hate Ben Johnson leaving the building, at least Morton was already there. And it's not like Jared Goff is going to forget all the throws he likes to make, all the call. Whenever you have a tenured veteran quarterback, he's basically a quasi-offensive coordinator himself. So I lean Goff, but it's the same call. If I were playing with a partner and he were a Purdy guy, I would back off it if
Right.
he really felt convicted about it.
By the way, playing with a partner in fantasy.
Cheat code.
Yeah. Oh, cheat code. Yes. I think horrible. You think good.
Oh, well, here's the thing. You have to have the same worldview. You have to have the same kind of level of commitment and buy-in. So it's horrible if one person's smarter than the other person or one person is more invested than the other person. But I think in my fantasy baseball keeper league where
that's different. That's different. Baseball's a monster, man.
It's so much work for one thing. But so I'm more of the scouting guy and the pickups guy. My friend Scott Gleason is a great negotiator. He's a lawyer. He's fantastic. Which I don't know how he gets people to agree to some of the trades he gets to agree with, but
does he browbeat? Does he browbeat in the trade?
No, he just he negotiates, and he's not unreasonably so. I remember I was in an expert league many years ago. I don't want to say the person's name. He's actually since passed on, but this guy would send the most condescending emails and the most horrible. What he would do is start with a horrible trade, so that when he got to a bad trade, it actually looked good by comparison. And
right.
I don't have time for this. That's why I kind of got into some partnerships, because I went from Alan being the person who loved trading the most to the person who hated it the most.
Yep. You send fair trades. I'll give you that.
I try.
Yeah, no, I'm in that. You actually, and this is, we've gone over trading shows on this podcast before. And there's one thing that I'm sure you've said it, but you actually do it. You look at the other person's roster, and then you gave a tactic that I thought was really good. I've incorporated into all my trade shows is ask the opponent or the trade partner to rank the players that you want. So if you want one of their receivers, because you'd be shocked how many times that you value Drake London as their wide receiver 1 and they have him as like their 3rd guy, right? Like it just happens all the time. I think that's a sneaky tactic.
Yeah, it's a cheat code. If they give you a list that you can exploit, you exploit it. If they give you a list that you agree with, okay, fine. And come to some common ground with people too. Agree on something, even if you don't make a trade, agree on something. Or if they don't want to do the trade you offer, reinforce, I can understand why you don't want to trade this guy. I can understand why the timing isn't right. You have a relationship with this person. You may make a trade with them later in the season. You may make a trade with them later in your lifetimes together. You want to look at this as like, I'm not trying to sell you a car. I'm trying to sell you every car you buy for the rest of your life. We're building a relationship here. So come to common ground. That's when Boiler Room, they say, get your person on the phone to say yes to something. Just say something that they'll say yes to. It doesn't matter what the deal is. Just you come to some common ground, and then maybe you can move forward.
I doom scroll. Do you doom scroll a lot? Like sometimes late night get caught. You don't strike me as a doom scroller. Someone just going through like Instagram or TikTok or Facebook Reels, anything like that. Do you get caught in like an hour all of a sudden? Do you do it too?
No, what I do, I stay up late at night looking at golf tips and thinking, oh, okay, if I tuck in my elbow and
well, the reason I even bring it up is because there's a lot of these like car salesman type guys that like just try to sell you a car today and not build you a lifetime. So I thought that was a very, maybe late last night I was doom scrolling and I saw it as well. So, but
I rewatch like the 1995 Masters. That's what.
You have a healthy feed. Mine is very toxic right now. I just got how to clean out your feed. You just like say you just type in like the cute dogs or cats or something, or 85 Lakers or that's how you have to reset the algorithm, or else you're just getting like fights at Waffle House or something.
Rewatch the Celtics and Lakers from the 80s. Alan, I'm worried that maybe being a Jets fan has worn you down some.
No,
is that how
I'm optimistic.
Is that?
No. Because my expectations are so low, right? Like this year, I'm like, if Justin Fields gets a wild card, it's like a Super Bowl, right? I mean, that's.
Did you like the Aaron Glenn hire?
I didn't hate it because I think, and here's another Scott Pianowskiism. I think we needed a CEO coach, adult in the room. I think they thought Robert Saleh was that, but unfairly they brought in a bigger alpha dog at the time, Aaron Rodgers, who was the shot caller, right? Like he was the true shot caller. Aaron Glenn flies Aaron Rodgers in and tells him he's fired. Right, like that's establishing who the alpha dog is. Loves Justin Fields, bring him in. So yes, I don't think it's like, hey, we have the next Sean McVay here, but we have somebody that could probably, the Jets can get us 9 wins, 10 wins, and sneak into the playoffs. That's what I like.
An amazing job last year with basically the whole team photo on defense on injured reserve at one point. They lost 7 or 8 starters. I think Hutchinson might have been the defensive player of the year if he plays a full season. That's how great he looked. And Glenn still kept this unit above water. I realized they got pantsed by Washington. I still think if they had beaten Washington somehow, Philadelphia was a horrible matchup for them. Even with the game in Detroit, I think the Eagles still would have won, and probably convincingly. Just no stopping that team last year. But yeah, Aaron Glenn, man, he's so
you like it? You like the hire?
I like it. I also think he's just. This is more speculation on my part because we haven't seen him in the big chair. But I think he's going to be a leader of men. And I think he reminds me a lot of Herm Edwards. And I mean that as a compliment of another former Jet coach, by the way.
And by the way, if this season, if the Lions have a good, like a 12-win season, Dan Campbell, like, if the last 25 years, he's got to be one of the top 5 coaches if he can do it again without both of his coordinators, again, maybe exaggeration for clarification, but man, people always discount Dan Campbell, and now is a true test.
That division, man.
I know.
I always say that Kevin O'Connell, I would follow him into a burning building. I'm in on JJ McCarthy. I would draft basically as early as you want on Jefferson. Jordan Addison is a proactive pick for me. I know my podcast mate, Michael Safino, is a big Addison guy. They'll get something out of Hawkinson. He's kind of a catch and fall player now, but I love McCarthy this year. I just love anything in the O'Connell offense because he's done it with so many different quarterbacks. You mentioned Campbell, Matt LaFleur, maybe the most underrated great coach in the NFL. He's not always great for fantasy. Stat I've been bringing up is since Devontae Adams left, the highest target count anybody has gotten for Green Bay is 100 exactly. Alan Lazard got to 100 one year, but nobody's gone past that.
And nobody used him in fantasy, really. Like
for sure.
Best games are on the bench. Yeah.
So it's been a rotation of receivers, and I like Tucker Kraft, but he may have to do it with 80 targets or something like that. But LaFleur's a great coach. Connell's a great coach. Campbell's a great coach, and Ben Johnson is a guy we can't wait to find out about. Right? I mean, it's one of the things fantasy managers have to do this summer is you have to have an opinion on Ben Johnson. You have to have an opinion on Liam Cohen. Are these guys right answers? Are they the new Andy Reid, Sean McVay guys? Even if there's only like a 20% chance of that being true, we have to take it seriously. And even last year with Canales, right? He goes to Carolina, a little bit of a rocky start, but there was encouragement at the end of the season, and Bryce Young started to play well. Who thought, Alan, a year ago, it's like, oh, CJ Stroud, he was a great pick, and, Houston got it right, and Carolina got it wrong.
Price.
And then in year 2, Young plays better.
Yeah.
Stroud plays worse. I realize everything went wrong for CJ Stroud. By no means am I throwing CJ Stroud out, and just giving up on him. But this shows the NFL is obviously a context game. And when everybody gets hurt or the play calling goes bad, the quarterback doesn't have a chance. But it just goes to show you I always say it's a reshuffle league, right? It's a snow globe league. You just shake it every once in a while and things look totally different. But the NFC North, what a great division. If Ben Johnson is a right hire, then you have all 4 teams with
see.
5-year answers, 10-year answers at head coach. But to me, say nothing against Campbell because he emotionally connects with his players and he's a smart guy too. I think it's underrated. I know he's a little bit wonky sometimes with those 4th down calls, but if I could have any of those coaches, I'd want Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, that's a good call right there. And if he could do it with essentially what's a rookie quarterback, JJ McCarthy, that'll be cool too. By the way, I'll make you smile right now, Scott. I know you're playing a little under the weather, but look, an old friend of Scott Pianowski right here, a Bocklage saying hello in the chat. He got all the Bocklages saying hello. So yeah, they're talking about fantasy hockey in the damn chat. So
by the way, his father Spike, LA Times head-to-head hockey league. He invented stacking. He used to play 5 members of the LA Kings on a certain night. We thought it was kind of wacky. What's that guy doing? And he was the first person I'd ever seen. He said, "Yeah, I'm gonna live or die with this one team because my players can all score collaboratively." And we invented stacking in the mid-90s.
When you told me that offline, and I was literally laughing because it was like the accidental discovery of electricity, right? Because today that's like every DFS or best ball podcast is about. I mean, it has a stacking element to stack,
right?
Not
for
to
sure.
Stack.
For sure.
You mentioned Jordan Addison. He's on my list of wide receivers that they're drafting incorrectly. And the reason is like there is a 3-4 game suspension coming here. If you draft this guy in like the 7th, 8th, ish round, I mean, is it one of those things where you just, you don't mind at that price, just holding them? And because later on in the season, I mean, you don't lean into injured players. I mean, starting with a suspended player is a dangerous game.
Well, I guess I got to run that by my man, Drew Davenport over at Football Guys, who I go to for legal advice for, not for myself, but for my
what'd you do? What'd you do?
I'm a clean living guy, Alan. But last year, it's funny. Drew gave me a piece of advice last year that it turned out being wrong, but it really was right. He was, look, Rashee Rice is a guy to get. He's gonna spread his wings, and I feel confident. Drew was saying confident that they would kick the can down the road with the suspension. I don't want to put words. He's a lawyer, Drew is, and he understands this stuff, and he puts these really long threads on his Twitter account or X, whatever they call it now. And I'm really giving, I think, advice and filling a pocket in the fantasy industry. I don't know anybody else who's doing it. And man, Rashee Rice was going to have I think he's going to catch like 110 balls last year, and then he gets hurt. So what do you do? Anybody can get hurt. I mean, last year, Alan, the strangest part of the football season was that the running backs didn't get hurt and the receivers did, right? That's no way that's going to play back in 2025. It just doesn't follow the curves that we've seen, the actuary stuff and all that. But so I guess to fully vet my Addison stance, I got to run it by Drew and see what he thinks about the suspension, because if that is a large risk, I don't want to punt a bunch of games out of hand right away. That's something I'm eager to do.
I think the trial is going on right now, right? And we're talking, and obviously by the time most people have to draft in a traditional league, you'll have the outcome, or at least you'll have reporting on the possibilities of an outcome. But just today, and again, I'm sure with the news that the trial is going on, the ADP will go to the 9th or 10th round, and maybe it's a reasonable bet there. But if you're doing a draft now, chances are it's like best ball, and that's a dead spot for a few weeks. We'll see. Right now, he's not a player that I'm drafting. I'm drafting others instead. How about Cooper Kupp? The price is pretty fair in the 8th round, Scott.
He's such a fade for me. I mean,
okay.
Look at the games played column. He's into his age 32 season. I mean, I realize he came to the NFL a little bit later, and I thought he should have been the MVP. If the MVP was just most outstanding player, there's no way Cooper Kupp doesn't win in 2021. And I don't know why the MVP has to be I understand why, because the quarterback is the most valuable player, but that's right. The MVP was meant to be the greatest player, the most impactful player, the most
impactful, right?
Outstanding. If they called it most outstanding player, then JJ Watt could win and Cooper Kupp could win, and it wouldn't be the best quarterback. All that said, 11 games, 12 games last year, 12 games the previous year, 9 games the previous year. Now he goes from the McVay. It's interesting that he goes from in division. I don't think the Rams are sweating this at all. Of course, they brought in their own aging receiver in Devontae Adams. And by the way, I'm not drafting Puka Nacua this year. I need to see the Rams prove that they can get him the ball in the red zone. They have not been able to do that. And then they bring a guy who's put on this earth to score touchdowns in Devontae Adams. Puka's an easy fade. Also, he was hurt entire career in college, and he's had some injury nicks in the NFL, not so much last year. But
that's a good call out, by the way.
Not drafting Nacua, but Kupp is an easy fade for me. And I think, again, going back to me and Michael Salfino on the Breakfast Table podcast, we've always been a little bit more open-minded to Sam Darnold than some other people. And that was good last year until the very end of the season. So I think Darnold's going to be what he is. He's going to have some games where he looks like a right answer. He's going to have some games where he gives away the game. He's basically, we joke about, we love Almost Famous on the Breakfast Table podcast. And we joke about the band is Stillwater, and they're a mid-level band struggling with their own limitations and the harsh face of stardom. That's kind of what Sam Darnold is. He's Stillwater. He can be great on a given night. He can be facing his limitations on a given night. But Cooper Kupp is practically, Alan, not on my draft board.
Okay. Scott, like I said, playing a little hurt today, and we appreciate it. And we're only going to go about another 10 minutes or so today, just to keep it nice and tight. And we know that Scott, he's giving it his all right here. And I just love talking to you anyway, but the takes right here are they're rock solid right now. So who's another receiver that you think people are drafting and it's just a wrong pick? And again, not necessarily a player take. Like you said, it could be a process take. Brandon Aiyuk, you're taking a guy coming off who's probably going to start off on PUP list. He comes back. You need a show me game, as I've heard you call it. So who's another guy on that list that just is probably the wrong pick?
It's scary to say this because I know why everybody's excited about him, but Travis Hunter, I'm not going to draft.
Ooh, okay.
Brian Thomas is the thing, man. He is already an alpha. And I'm a Liam Cohen fan. I don't really know what to think of Trevor Lawrence. I think Cohen can coach him up to make him competent. Lawrence has had moments of fantasy value before. But the fact that Hunter is going to play a he's going to have some role on defense. I don't know if it's a handful of snaps, if it's more. They don't have a good secondary. Maybe it'd be tempting to play him more on defense if they're getting roasted by everybody. Hunter wants to do this. This kind of comes back to my Shohei Ohtani take where I think that the Hunter should say, look, I know you're a good pitcher, but you're so valuable on offense. Let's not waste you as a pitcher and run any risk of something bad happening. Now, the Dodgers have had such a bad pitching staff this year. They really need Ohtani to pitch, even if it's just as an opener going through the lineup maybe once or a couple of innings, whatever it is. But Hunter is going to get some snaps on defense, and there's already a fully formed megastar in Brian Thomas. I'm not going to – and remember –
they spent big money on him here. I mean, in draft capital, second pick, paid up to get it, Scott. That doesn't weigh in.
Think of everything we said about Harrison last year, and not that Harrison's season was bad, but it came in under expectation. You would have done better to not draft Harrison, but the people around his neighborhood, obviously the expectations with Hunter are lower. He's going a lot later than Harrison.
Round 7, that's around 6, 7, depending. Sometimes he drops. That's what I'm saying. With Harrison, you had to pay pick 14 or something like that. So, but your point is
apples
still,
and oranges. That's fair. I'm not making a straight comparison with that, but also I say sometimes that I'm allergic to buzz. First of all, I think I'm allergic to everything. It feels like, especially right now. But
I feel bad for you, Scott. I really do. I feel like I can
right.
give you some virtual chicken soup or something,
I had some about 30 minutes ago.
It really is the best thing when you're not 100%, right?
Yeah,
like it just
chicken soup is great. Sports drinks and chicken soup will get you where you need to go. This is the Jordan flu game, but Travis Hunter, man, I think he's going to be there too. I don't know how good the quarterback is, and he's going to have some role on defense.
Yep. Well, this is, what's likely for Travis Hunter. I was in my brain because I think he's going to play a lot of offense, but there'll be stretches in my judgment where he just plays defense. Like say their best cornerback gets hurt. Okay, we need you on defense for the next 2 games, right? Like
I want to make it clear that actually is not something I'm concerned about. I think he's going to be primarily an offensive player. I just don't want him to do something that takes away from his focus or adds any extra injury risk. Or what can if he's playing at all on defense, even if it's a sprinkling of defensive snaps, what can his offensive snap share be? I mean, it's not realistic to play both ways.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I just think that if you take a guy that high, you're going to want to use him as an offensive weapon. And again, the price is fair. It's like it keeps dropping, right? Like I thought he was going to be a 4th round pick. I think last night I was in a league where he went to the like a guillotine league. It was a huge league, like 17 teams, but it went the equivalent of like late round 6, So again, the price is fair. We'll see. It's so easy to see the upside with him, especially when you compare like the Jacksonville Jaguars this season with what happened with Tampa Bay last year, the Liam Cohen comparison, the distressed number 1 quarterback with Baker last year versus Trevor Lawrence this year. It's easy to see the upside, but the floor feels super shaky, doesn't it? There's no, I guess there's a Mike Evans and Brian Thomas offers some form of floor.
Well, I got to ask you, you're our Florida guy here and just a smart guy anyway. Who's the right answer? I don't know the answer to this. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to assume that you're right, and then I'll apply it.
Okay.
I'll be rich ever after. Who was the right answer in the Jacksonville running room?
I knew that question was coming, right? Like, I want to say Bashal Tutin because they pounded the table. James Gladstone, right, the new GM, And that was part of his like pitch to the owner. Like, I'm going to draft this guy in the 4th round. Here's my running back. Seems a lot very similar to what he did to Bucky Irving last year. Travis Etienne, nobody like loves him and thinks he's good. That's like how we thought of Rashad White last year. But man, the price is good on Etienne also. I mean, I don't, if I'm going to say league winning upside, that kind of YouTube-y clickbaity term, it's got to be Bashal Tutin because, I mean, they had a plan for him. It has the wheels, and it's just so easy to see him being this year's Bucky Irving.
And we know
no floor though, no floor.
Well,
game day inactive floor.
At least he caught the ball some at Virginia Tech. And one big thing about Cohen, and for all the talk of look how great Evans was and look how great Mayfield was. Cohen knows how to scheme the running backs in the passing game. So somebody here is going to catch 50 passes. We know they've done nothing with Bigsby as a receiver in the NFL, but maybe they can coach him up. I know part of that is trusting him in pass pro. Maybe they can spring some life back into ETN, who's kind of in a weird spot with a new organization that inherited him, that didn't choose him. But Tutin, I'm surprised that maybe it's because it's the 3-headed, it's nebulous, so the price has been reasonable. And
he dropped the first, he fumbled the first.
Right,
carry.
yeah, he had a bad first day. So what? I don't.
Who else has had a bad first day? Every single person that's ever worked in an office or anything else. You just do something wrong. Things happen.
Your first day of high school, right? You had no idea where you were going, and you were nervous, and your stomach felt queasy, and you didn't know anybody in your homeroom. It's like the worst day of your life. Yeah, for sure. You get over it.
Yep. What's the most important thing right now that you're working on over at Yahoo you want to let everybody know about?
Just a bunch of football stuff. Rankings, sleepers, position primers. I have my first shuffle up coming out next week. I think it's a quarterback shuffle, but I'm going to shuffle all the positions. So we're about to, I feel like draft season really kicks in like the first week of August. And there's a lot of stuff I can't talk about right now that we're actually going to unleash in August that I'm excited about. And I want you to check it out when it pops. I think August 4th is the date. We're going to tell you a lot of stuff I can't tell you right now that I wish I could, but just trying to get my rankings up to speed and getting a sense of, because I'll be honest with you, Alan, I mean, here we are in the middle of July. My takes are still in pencil. There's a few things. I mean, I talked about, I'm not going to draft Tyreek Hill, and I'm not going to draft Chris Olave. I'm not going to draft Cooper Kupp.
How about Godwin? Godwin, no go either, right? Same thing, injury last year. Was killing fantasy before that.
Yeah, I would be open-minded to taking him in the right situation, but not proactively.
Yep. Yeah. And the fact they drafted Buka in the first round too makes me think that they're a little concerned. We'll see. There's a lot. I don't draft. Ever since you said it one time on a show with Jeff Erickson, it just clicked. Like, why the hell am I going to lean into injuries when they're going to find me anyway? So it's just, that's yeah. All right. Just want to remind everyone, if you want to get right now, you can go over to RotoWire.com, 15% off any subscription. Just use code YouTube15, checkout, pop it in. All of our premium tools. We have a new mock draft simulator, a draft planner. There's so much good stuff over there. Scott, we'll have to have you back when you're like feeling 100% better, because I have a list of questions here that I need answered. The audience needs answered, but we want to be respectful of your time. And you gave us so much already.
Well, give me a bonus question. Give me one more off the top.
Right. I mean, it's not even off the top. Just saying, when you talk about FAAB bidding, right? Like people, this has been debated. What is the best way to use your FAAB budget? Is it to go after someone in week one, hammer, or you hold it back? I know it's player specific, situation specific, but if somebody was coming to you and says, "Hey, I'm just learning fantasy football for the first time, playing in a FAAB league," Scott, what's the 3 most important things I need to know about how to use my FAAB?
So you asked me a question that's going to be really hard to answer at any tight window.
I have no tight window. This is your window, so take your time.
Right,
stretch your legs.
That's a really hard thing to answer. It's almost like saying, what poker style should I employ at the poker table today?
Okay, how about this? How do you do it?
I am generally not the all-in week one guy. That's generally not me, because I want to have options during the season. But I understand why people say it. Well, look, if you hit on the right person, you get a full season of help from them.
Kyron Williams. I mean, there's a bunch of those.
Nakua a couple years ago, right? Yeah, for sure. Of course, if you blow that, then you're sitting out. But the most important thing with waivers to me is just to actually do the work. And I realize that a bunch of us are in multiple leagues, and that Tuesday night or Wednesday night or Monday night, whatever your league cadence is, could be a little bit overwhelming at times. I'm always trying to when you're in, people say, well, I'm in a bunch of leagues. How do I manage it? You want to take advantage of leagues that are parallel in structure. There's if I'm in a league that's the same size as another league, I want to observe what's going on in one league and I can apply it to the other league. Like my fantasy baseball pickups are Sunday, and the first league we do pickups in are 6 p.m. Eastern. Those bids come in. I review how we did. I look at everybody who was bid on, because in that particular league, they show all the bids, winning bids, losing bids, see who was dropped, see if there's anybody who somebody got their first choice, but they listed 5 other players. I want to see who else they bid on, especially if they're a manager I respect. And sometimes then we have a first come, first serve period. A lot of times I'll pick up a guy. I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't thinking about this particular player. He was, this other guy liked him. What's going on here? Maybe I can add him. You want to try to apply whatever you can get, whatever information you can get. Also, those bidding numbers, every league is different, but at least it gives you an idea of how this one league price players. It may give me more intel on how to do my FAAB later that night. So I think you want to, and this is something they're always doing at RotoWire. They're reviewing like expert league bids and NFFC or NFBC bids and all that stuff. And every league is different. Your league is not that league. You are not playing against the same people. So you have to season it to taste. But I think a cheat code for being a better FAAB player, FAAB strategist, is trying to pick up data or information or tendencies, right? Or you're playing poker, right? You're looking at batting patterns, right? You're looking at player tendencies, right? That's what you're trying to pick up. And please, especially, I can't say this enough, once the bye weeks kick in, that's when the season kind of changes. September
number 2. Here's tip number 2 right here. I know. I was waiting for it.
September starts. Everybody loves their team. Okay. Then September ends and somebody's 0-4. Somebody's 1-3. Here come the bye weeks. And people have to start cutting players they don't want to. People have to start considering making changes, or maybe they shouldn't, but whatever, maybe they should. Every situation is different. But that's when the season really starts. I say a poker game doesn't start until somebody's stuck or somebody's had to rebuy or something like that. When everybody's got their full stack, everybody's happy, nobody's really stressed yet. There's no personality to the game yet. Come October, this personality, this bye weeks. And what happens in the bye week season is people have to cut players they don't want to cut. And then, I remember, think back to 2014. Now, this isn't the most freshest example, but I won an expert league because somebody cut Mike Evans his rookie year. He wasn't doing that much. Bye weeks kicked in, roster crunch. They had to cut him. And I got to not have to invest in Evans preseason, but I got him in the middle of the year and then he took off. I mean, that was favorable. And maybe it's not unrealistic to expect you're not going to hit like that often, but you only need an occasional pop like that to make it worth it. So make sure you're auditing the players who are dropped, especially once we get to the point of the season that good players start getting dropped, because that really kicks in October.
Justin Jefferson was dropped after week 2 in his rookie year in a lot of leagues. Yeah. I mean, remember, I forget they were like, oh, he's not playing. He's a rookie. I forget the guy they pushed him over, who was playing ahead of him, but it was it wasn't Jalen Naylor who's there today, but it was someone like that. It was like, why aren't they playing? And then all of a sudden he just won you the league. It does happen. I'm saying, every league size is different, 10 team, 12 team level of experience. So, and the other thing that, I've heard you talk about that I'll just bring people's attention to is try to figure out who's next week's top waiver wire bid. Yes. And that's a, second run waiver, $0 bidding, however you want to discuss it. So, all right, Scott, follow Scott on Blue Sky, on X at Scott_Pianowski, right? Do you use the underscore on Blue Sky as well? Or did you get the full name?
I think I'm Pianow on Blue Sky, but they're
easy to find.
I have a unique name, so I'm not hard to find on social media.
Yeah, you're an SKI. I'm an SKY. So everyone always thinks I'm SKI, every teacher, every friend. So, but I don't know. People default to the SKI.
How do you feel about Sky Moore having the 2 Ys? Is that good for you? Bad for you? Did you ever think of adding a second Y to your name?
Yeah, just because that's funny. That is funny. The second Y, that would really screw people up. No, there's Y. Oh man, I would have to get the name changed.
So early in my life, I was a newspaper guy, and I spent a few years covering high school sports. And I love covering boys sports, girls sports, local sports, high school, college, pro. I covered Little League games sometimes. I covered everything. And I have much respect for the great just competition and spirit of women's sports. But what was an unmitigated hell was when you had to get names sometimes of the girls from these teams where we got into a pocket where every parent decided they had to spell their child's name uniquely.
Right.
You know, everybody, was it 2 E's? Was it a Y? Was it an IE? You spent the whole night. What you wanted to be doing is getting information to write a good story, to write a good wrap up. And you spent most of the night trying to make sure you had the name spelled right, which is important. I'm not trying to say it isn't, but it's just like, can't everybody just spell everything the same?
Dude, we're officially in the generation bracket now, Scott, where if you look at people's names that are in high school at this point, forget the misspellings. They're just like, they look at like our names, Scott, and your name's a classic name, but as more like how we look at Thelma, you know, like a name like that from like, it's 50 years ago. They're all like Bryson now and Carter and, you know, just very new school generation alpha names.
A lot of Dylans.
Dylans,
yeah.
Right. All right, man.
I gotta say one other rant.
Yeah, sure.
This is unfair for me to say. I don't have any kids, but I never understand these parents who have like Roger Clemens, right? He named all his kids began with the letter K because he's a pitcher and he strikeouts, whatever. Okay, you do you, Raj.
Right.
You see, sometimes parents will have twins, and they'll name them Tommy and Timmy. Or you know, Jody and Judy or whatever.
Right,
like,
right.
You know, a name is identity. Okay,
yes.
A name is supposed to differentiate one person from another person. So don't give them names that are going to get confused. Because
I knew a Mara and a Sarah, by the way, twin.
What are
girls.
you doing that for? All you're going to do is ensure that nobody knows who is who. And a name is supposed to be identity. It's supposed to be uniquely that child's name.
Yeah, dude. There's a bit in there. There's a Seinfeld / Larry David, but that's a good take right there. Yeah, you know what? That might have been your best take of the day, and you had some good.
Yeah, the football takes were garbage, but the name takes, man, that stuff is gonna live on forever, Alan. Long after I'm gone, people will be successfully naming their kids. They'll be like, it was that football guy. I can't remember his name. He gave me the worst advice. Cooper Kupp was like made the Pro Bowl, and he told me not to draft him. Tyreek Hill was Offensive Player of the Year. But man, he got me to the right names of my kids. Right.
And then obviously
live on forever.
Yeah. And then you see people dressing twins in the same outfit when they're younger as well.
I don't get it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, that's why
give your kids a distinctly unique name.
That's why you and I don't have kids. We both don't have kids because, listen, just because you'd be a good parent doesn't mean you should be one. And we were able to point out, we don't play professional football, but we give out advice about football, right?
Well, what does Paul Giamatti say in Sideways when they ask if he has any kids? He's like, I just screw him up anyway. You know? Great movie. There's a movie that everybody should rewatch like 15 times. I'm
surprised that wasn't your number one, or was your number one, right? If your last movie from
it was. It's that and Rushmore toggle between my 1 and 2 all time. And I squeezed it into, I thought Rushmore came out in the 2000s and it came out in the late 1990s. Yeah. So I had to offer up a sheepish retraction for a movie. You get
a 2-year thing there. Like
I was embarrassed to get that wrong, but Alan, I'm still mad that Paul Giamatti did not win every award, including like the Lady Bing Award for that performance. Yep. Fantastic. And a great shout out to his dad, right? The former baseball commissioner, the late Bartlett Giamatti.
I didn't realize that.
Where he's the scene where the movie's been out for 20 years. So
we're talking about the movie Sideways, by the way.
It's
a wine movie. Go ahead.
Wine movie, yeah. So two guys who used to be friends who really aren't friends anymore, but they kind of are. They're going to spend a week together before one of them gets married. And so they stop before they go to wine country. They stop to see Paul Giamatti's mom. He says because it's their birthday, but in part because he's low on money for the trip and he knows where she hides her spare cash. He's going to basically steal money from his mom. And it's actually more poignant than it sounds. I know that sounds like a horrible thing to do. But so when his mother is distracted with his friend, they're eating dinner on the patio and he goes up to the bedroom and he knows he's got Ajax container, get a bunch of C notes in there.
Ajax. And
he looks poignantly at the photos on the bureau, and there's the photo of like a family photo, and there's a photo of him and his dad. It's actually his real dad. His dad was Bart Giamatti. He was a baseball commissioner. The guy who suspended Pete Rose for life. And then I think from the stress of that event, 9 days later, Giamatti died. But there's a photo of the real Bart Giamatti, the real Paul Giamatti at Paul's Yale graduation. It's just a little Easter egg that's thrown into that movie. And then ironically, after he's stolen the money from his mom, about 10 or 15 minutes later in the movie, his mom says, "Are you doing all right? Do you need any money?" She would have given it to him. He didn't have to take it.
Right. That is the number one. You guys mentioned, you were talking about Tropic Thunder when you were doing your list of the best movies of the set. And I rewatched it. It was still still great. Even though it could never be made today, a little politically incorrect but still, like, it's a measurement of the times. Anything when it was only comedy, nobody got offended at that, but it's you got a good list there. I urge people did you post that list anywhere? Your favorite movies of the
Mike might have posted it.
Yeah.
Maybe he did.
Cool.
Also, man, anytime they want to go away from everything being a franchise, I'm here for it.
It's what makes money, though. It's what makes money. They'll never
That's
be.
What they want. That's what they want. Yeah. They want something that's safe that makes money. And I get it. These studios exist to make a profit and all that, but
especially no one goes to the movies to see Sideways anymore. I just wouldn't get a box office.
I support the independent cinema. I support people with different ideas, and that's why I'm an Alexander Payne guy, and I'm a Sofia Coppola guy, and Lost in Translation. What a gem that is. Another Bill Murray movie, by the way. So. Yeah,
great movie. Yep. All right, man. Scott, we appreciate you, and we'll be back, everybody, next week with another fantasy football podcast.